something that no matter how it's explained to you, you just can't understand how it works? Story 1. How a basic wax record and player works. I get it's a grove that is tiny hills and valleys, and the needle picks up on each little one, but how does that equal a voice coming out of a large metal tube? It's witchcraft as far as I'm concerned. Story 2. Ill go. For me, it's the whole transformation from caterpillars to butterflies. I understand what they do, but it's the most alien ever that a worm just decides to rearrange itself into a winged creature that looks nothing like it did before. Story 3. Magnets. I've decided that they're magic, and that's all there is to it. A few hours after posting the above edit 1, I didn't mean I believe in magic literally. Geez. It's called hyperbole. Holy people, edit 2. Thank you, brainy people, for trying to explain it. You all failed, but I appreciate the attempt and love you for it. A day later, edit 3, I had to Google what all the ICP comments meant because I'm musically unhip. In other news, I've been listening to a new-to-me band today, so thanks, musicy people. Story 4. The stock market. How can it be possible for the value of an item to change so drastically? I understand supply and demand, but the large fluctuations are amazing. Story 5. MRIs, and I have a strong STEM education. They're essentially magic. I mean, I grasp the basic concepts, but how you can create a picture from the response of molecular poles being pulsed is like wild. Story 6. Quantum mechanics. No matter how many times it's explained, the idea that particles can exist in multiple states at once or influence each other instantaneously across vast distances just feels like nature's most elaborate inside joke that I'm not quite in on. Story 7. Computer. You take the rock. You pound it into metal ore or something. You put the metal together with some stringy bits of copper or IDK, whatever goes into circuits. You run electricity through it. It does math? It's a rock. How it does math? Edit if I had a 1 and a 0 for everyone who has explained computers to me. Based on this post, I could build multivac. Story 8. I don't get how cell phones work. I get it. I don't. How can I speak to my family in the Middle East on FaceTime without any sort of cords? My mind cannot fathom update. Wow, I thought waking up this morning I'd just put on my scrubs and it would be another day on the psych ward. Just wanted to say thank you to all of you for providing so many amazing explanations, for not being rude or trolls or making me feel dumb about this. I had an old account I had to get rid of. I have been on Reddit for nearly 10 years. This is the most positive experience I've ever had. Thank you. Story 9. I got a bachelor's in physics, then worked in a geophysics research group. Did some grad school. It took me until 30 to understand why it was colder at higher elevation. Edit. I spent the last 3 days researching this, and am confident enough to say that all of the explanations here and the Google response are in fact wrong. Temperature goes down exclusively because gravitational potential energy goes up. That's it. That's the entire ballgame. Energy conservation. If you work out the math, that's 10 degrees C per kilometers. The actual temperature decrease is 5 degrees per km. This, I believe, is due to energy released by condensation. Adiabatic expansion is a consequence of all of this stuff, not the cause. The amount of pressure and volume is a result of the energy lost to gravitational potential, not the cause of the energy loss. Story 10. So many things, all these answers are just adding more to the list. Brains are insane to me. Like every human is virtually made of the same things. We all have a brain, etc. But everyone's brain is so ridiculously different from others. Then when you bring in things like mental illness, dementia, why do some brains go through that and others don't? Why isn't there a better way to help reverse stop progression? Story 11. My health insurance. You mean I have to pay every time I use it even though I pay monthly? Unless I pay a big amount, then I pay less? But if I don't use it, they just keep it all? But they don't cover my teeth or my eyes? Story 12. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. What is? How does it work? Is it real? Where does it come from? Like really? Where TF does it come from? I freak out about when I really try thinking if it. Story 13. Why after thousands of years of history behind us, people still. You'd think we'd be improving, but no. Sometimes it feels like we're actually getting worse. Story 14. Even before Brooklyn 99, this was my answer. The Monty Hall problem. And I'm actually fairly good at math. This one I just can't get myself to fundamentally understand. Story 15. Sound. Vinyl records, recordings, phones. I mean, I can kind of get behind vinyl records. That makes the most sense to me, but even then, that's so intricate, with so much variety, so many different songs with the tiniest little ridges that make millions of different results. I come out perfectly just by dragging a needle across it. It absolutely blows my mind. But the technological advances of not only recording and playing audio, but also being able to do so in real time, no matter where you are in the world, It blows my mind, like, how does that work? Does talking on the phone work? What kind of witchcraft is this? Story 16. Computers. Yeah, it reads code, but a program tells it what the code means, but that program is made of code. So a program tells that program how to ga. We just shoot electricity into this magic box and we can look at and do our taxes. Story 17. I don't understand color. I think it's something about how the color we see is the color that wasn't absorbed, and therefore the one reflected into our eyeballs, but I just don't really get it. Story 18. I don't understand how we can see the Milky Way galaxy in one spot in the sky. Why wouldn't completely surround us? That scene from Interstellar when they go to the planet for a bit, then get back to the ship and the dude's many years older. Why time passes quicker in different places in space. Story 19. Solving equations using matrices. I can do other math, I don't like it, and it makes my brain hurt, but I can do it. I tried so hard to get past this part of Algebra 2 for multiple years and continually failed, to the point I gave up on college because I needed that math credit to graduate. I had 3 teachers, 2 tutors, a friend who used to tutor, and a loved one who was a high-level software and hardware engineer, all try to help me through it. I'd get through the one problem they walked me through and fail as soon as they had me try on my own. I never want to see another Matrix. Except the movie series. ETA guys, I appreciate the sentiment, but if the list of people who tried to help me didn't make it clear, you're not going to be able to solve this for me over Reddit. I don't need to solve equations with matrices to do anything in my life unless I try college again. Story 20. The Electoral College. No matter how it's explained to me, it will never make sense to me that we award arbitrary points to states over going what the majority of voters want. Story 21. Black holes. Space in general, but black holes really get to me. So strong that light and other stars' planets can't escape it? Where does it all go? Story 22. The whole cousins X times removed thing. I mean, I kind of get second cousin once removed, but beyond that, it just confuses me. I have no first cousins. God, I wish I had the gold star of cousins, but I don't. Instead, genealogy websites are always trying to tell me that someone who was 73 when I was 4 is my first cousin, but twice removed or some. No, my parents were only children. They didn't have some secret brother who was like 95 years older than them, so get out of here with this is your first cousin, but also don't even with the but it's different generations line of whatever. Why the heck was everyone in my family having kids at the wrong time? Also, does anyone remember that we're related app Ancestry used to have where it claimed you were related to certain famous people? It told me George Washington is my first cousin 7 times removed. Yeah, sure, Jan and people don't understand why I find this confusing. Not like I remember hanging out with him and Tommy Jefferson at the family camping trip. Why America is being run by 65 millionaires that have no concern for the American public health or its financial stability. Story 23. How Trump can still be allowed to run for president. Any regular guy saying the things he constantly says in any post, podcast, or YouTube video, and the guy would be canceled instantly. Old Orange full of money says the same things, let's make him president again. I guess. I am not sure I will ever understand. Story 24. Credit scores. More specifically, how, in theory, when you pay off a loan, it should make your credit score go up. But in reality, it lowers your credit score. Story 25. Magnets. How do they work airplanes? Especially turning takeoff when the plane starts to lift off the ground and then just keeps going. And then just stays up there. Story 26. How a chicken can make a whole egg every day. I'm always just blown away every day. A whole new egg. And sometimes 2 a day. Why is this not talked about more? Lol. Story 27. How when playing an FPS game in Europe and aiming my gun at another player's head, who's in the US and pulling the trigger, electrical impulses are roughly speaking sent from my mouse to my computer's motherboard to its CPU, which makes the decision to forward it to my network card, which sends it to my router to my 5G antenna, then through the air to a receiving cell phone tower a mile down the road, then down into the ground through cables again. I'm assuming through the entire country to some major European backbone hub, then down into deep-sea cables under the entire Atlantic Ocean, through the same whole bunch of cables and switches and relay stations through his country as well, and finally into his computer, where he dies from the bullet a fraction of a second later. And then we all complain about the lag and the high pings because the internet is just so slow today. But anyway, it's not so much that I don't understand how this all works technically. I do. But I just can't wrap my head around how the information is able to travel as fast as it does for as far as it does. It's not just the distance itself, but also just the sheer amount of devices and things the data packets have to enter and exit on the way, with computer chips running software, making logical decisions on how to receive it, analyze it, and send it on its way again, over and over and over again. And all of this doesn't even take a single second from start to end. Not even half of one. I don't know, it's just mind-boggling to me. Story 28. Relativity. I have a master's degree, so I'm no ape. But I swear the whole coming back to Earth and everyone is old thing just confuses me, regardless of the videos I watch. Story 29. Borderline disorder. I've read the wiki page like 3 times. I'm convinced anytime the shrinks don't know what someone has, they label them borderline. Story 30. How people vote for a man who called U.S. war dead suckers and losers and insulted POWs too. A man with 34 felony convictions who bragged about assaulting women. I can't get my head around it. I really can't. Story 31. I understand flight, lift and draft and airspeed and all that. I mean, I understand it in a rational sort of way. My brain kind of gets it. But my heart is like, so, you take a huge beer can, stick some fins on that, a couple jet engines, pack it full of people and it just flings itself into the sky? And it stays there? Sorcery. Story 32. How TVs work, especially free over-the-air channels. You're telling me an antenna grabs things into a cord? It gets fed into a box where it turns into colored pictures and sound? Story 33. Plumbing. Like I understand it on a fundamental level, but I don't understand how there's theoretically always water in my pipes. Where does it come from? Where does it go after it goes down my drain? How can I turn on a bunch of different taps in my house at the same time, and there's still water that comes out of them? All the houses in my neighborhood city access that same water? The logistics of it still blows my mind. Story 34. Why sometimes the meaning of debit and credit flip. Something I do for work regularly, and luckily I have someone that reviews and tells me when I've messed it up. Seems like 8 or 10 times, credit means, then out of nowhere it means, instead. It's been explained to me like 5 times. I've read so many explanations of it, it just doesn't make sense. Story 35. The more I think about our world, history, and reality, the more nothing makes any sense at all, and feels like it must be some sort of simulation. I just don't understand how humans came to be, or why we're here, or how people even survived back then, or how we got to this point where we are so technologically advanced in such a short time, or how things are made or produced on such a massive scale. I don't get it. How TF did things expand so quickly? There's hundreds and thousands of different types of cars, phones, computers, houses, furniture, mattresses, dressers, couches, blankets, mirrors, rugs, and curtains, etc. Theme parks and airports, shopping centers and restaurants, advanced sewage systems, seemingly unlimited fresh water supply, food supply, medical supplies, and any type of supply or equipment you could possibly ever need or want. It somehow exists, and if you have the money for it, you could probably easily have it in your hands in just a few hours or days, etc., etc. It's all at the tip of our fingertips. But where TF does it all come from and how? How was everything made? With what materials? Where do all these materials come from in such massive quantities to supply entire countries, etc.? Like a computer. How did someone even discover computers and the internet? What are these tech items made out of? And where did people obtain these materials in the first place? Then where'd they get the idea to puzzle them all together to create this weird thing they had never heard of before called a computer and the internet, that within it has any and all information you could ever need to know in the entire world, all at your fingertips? It's incomprehensible. I don't get how anything works, or how everything is supplied on such a massive scale, and we never seem to run out of resources. Anything you want is just always there these days, just a few clicks away. If you have the money for it, it's yours. I can't quite comprehend or process any of it, or the magnitude of everything that exists. My head just can't wrap around it, period. It all sounds crazy, but the more I read about history and the world, the more questions I have and less I understand anything. Story 36. Social constructs. I don't get the whole underlining meaning. People who try to use hints to get something out of me irritate me. Like, no, Carrie, I didn't get. You wanted me to grab something from the store when you mentioned how good it would be to have this specific thing. Just say what you mean, EDK, if this fits the category, but it's an example. Story 37. American football and American. Please do not reply to this comment with your attempt at an ultimately meaningless explanation of American football. Story 38. The right way to load and unload the dishwasher. My wife has been trying to explain the right way to me for over a decade, and I seem to not be able to do it right ever. And apparently that means I don't even love her. Story 39. Being a Donald Trump supporter. He is an idiot. I can't grasp the bit where he is president material, and why someone would want him to be. He is an awful human. Story 40. How a spaceship can navigate itself through the vacuum of space. I understand its thrust, but I just can't wrap my brain around how an explosion can propel something forward against a complete vacuum. Story 41. The natural logarithm. I can just grasp the constant e and logarithms separately, but put them together and there's just not enough bandwidth. FYW, I'm 63 and retired. There's nothing I need to do that requires this knowledge, but I've been studying maths because I want to learn the things I didn't understand in college. Story 42. When I was trying to be a photographer, it was the f-stop, ISO, and aperture, and how they work together. I tried for 2 years to get into photography. I read it almost every night. I had my boss go over it with me before every shoot. I just couldn't get it under control. It's been 10 years and I still have zero clue. Also fractions. Story 43. Offsides in sports like hockey and soccer. My brain just does not retain the information. I played softball and volleyball, so my only experience is as a viewer, not a player. Story 44. How Santa avoids strikes from the stork delivering babies. Yes, I understand not many birthdays fall on Christmas, but the technology implemented in the sleigh just seems so beyond belief. His elves are just master craftsmen. Story 45. The logistics of circumcision. The argument can be used to remove any part of the body, but we don't do it for anything else other than typically for someone's. And only males cause doing it to females is wrong. Pretty sure both are wrong either way you look at it. Story 46. Stocks and all that investing stuff. I pay a bit each month for Vanguard to manage my retirement investments for me because I have no clue what to do. Story 47. Football. Like, Mai has tried his very best to explain it to me, but I just do not understand the rules or the plays or what triggers the kicking. It all seems completely random. Story 48. Quantum superposition. Like, I understand what it is, I could probably give a mostly accurate description of it, but it makes no sense. I can understand the words in the explanation, but I can't grasp it as a concept. Story 49. Wireless. How does some vibrating find its destination? How are billions of them not each other up? Walls do nothing? So much in the way includes small atomic scale stuff and they do nothing. How is it so reliable? Story 50. Financial stuff just escapes me. I have literally graduated Navy nuclear power school and done a lot of tech stuff. Someone starts talking about random financial stuff and my eyes just glaze over. Like what they are talking about isn't real. I don't get it. I had to take some accounting classes for a degree. And I understand math and credits and debits and stuff. The rest of it just reads like flim-flam.